Hey team, you're watching Hide and Sneaks and I'm continuing my way through the look back at 2024 releases and ranking various models. Now there have already been a few that have been done on this channel, but today we're doing a popular one, the Air Jordan 4. Now the Air Jordan 4 has obviously been a really popular model the past few years. It seems to still be the current hype model, but we can see in 2024 it did start to see a bit of a drop off, and some of those absolutely crazy resale prices tend to be becoming a little bit more grounded. I think what we saw in 2024 was the first year that Jordan and Nike fully caught on and really made the most of the Air Jordan 4 hype. What we get in hands as a consumer has often been in development for several years. Think about production, marketing, development. So I think some of the hype that Jordan brand noticed and saw online, resale prices and overall popularity in 2021 and 2022, we actually saw in 2024, and it makes sense for a number of reasons. Not only was this a higher output of Jordan 4s, we've got 22 to rank today, but we also saw the development of not just one, but two separate spins on the Air Jordan 4. That of course was the Air Jordan 4 Net, and the lower version, which was the Air Jordan 4 RM. Now I know, like most people who are watching the channel, they just want to see the Air Jordan 4 goodness. So yes, I have included all the men's and women's releases for this year, but I've also added in the Air Jordan 4 RM and the Air Jordan 4 Nets. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the Air Jordan 4 RM. I look at it and I'm trying to see a Jordan 4, but I don't really see it apart from the bottom of the shoe. So, spoiler alert, there are going to be a few of them at the bottom end of my list, so I'll walk through those quite quickly and then get to the pairs that I think you'll be more eager to see. Starting off with this first pair, look, it's an Air Jordan 4 RM. I'm not exactly sure what it's meant to be. I was looking at it and thought, does it kind of give the off-white Presto sort of look and vibe? And I think it does, but I'm not a fan of this one. It doesn't seem cohesive, so that's why it's at the bottom of my list. Moving on ahead, we have a women's pair of the Air Jordan 4 RM. It's a little bit more wearable, but what I don't necessarily like about this pair is it's so similar to the collaboration pair with Nigel Sylvester that we see later on in this list. This next pair is another 4RM, it's a rose colorway, so to me it's kind of inspired by one of the Air Jordan 4 Armaniers. It's okay, but there are definitely much better pairs on this list. Moving on to this one, I think has a very clear vibe check of the Air Jordan 4 Fair, so I think it's a bit more wearable than some of the other pairs, but I feel that tan on the outsole just really throws it off. This next one is another RM model. I thought any shoe that had a red colorway was an absolute hit. Maybe it's the materials, maybe it's the way it's laid out, maybe it's the fact that I want to see an Air Jordan 4 bread in here and I really can't see it. So for me, it's nice because it's a black and red shoe, but it doesn't give that red love that I like. This next one is another RM model, but it's so clear to see where the vibe check is. If you look at this model, you see the pine green accents, you see the outer sole being gum colored. It's obviously a nod to the Air Jordan 4 SB. Now I have this pair myself and I absolutely love it, and I can completely understand why Jordan decided to take some inspiration from it. However, I think the materials on this aren't to the same standard. Up next we have another RM, and I promise you guys, just hold up, there is an Air Jordan 4s on this list. We've just got to get through the RMs first. It's an all black pair, very wearable. Obviously it's inspired by the Jordan 4 Black Cat, which was such a popular hit the last time that released, so it made sense for them to do it here, but what I'm seeing is really just a black sneaker. I'm not getting that Jordan 4 silhouette. It's another RM sneaker, and to me it's reminiscent of the Jordan 4 Off-Whites. We've seen how popular neutral colours are in a lot of lineups. Travis Scott's done it well, Armani's done it well, RIP to Yeezy, the Yeezys did it really well too. This pair I think is very wearable. This next pair is a woman's Jordan 4 RM. To me, I'm getting hints of the white Oreos. I think it's a much more wearable pair, and I know it's got glitter on it, but I think it's one of the best RMs we've seen of the 2024 release schedule. This next pair, again, is another Jordan 4 RM, but this one is a collaboration pair with Nigel Sylvester. I mentioned before there was another women's green pair, and I said it was held back because it was too similar to this collaboration pair that released. It's got nicer materials, and the black outsole to me makes a silhouette pop a little bit more and look a little bit more Jordan 4 reminiscent. That's why I've got it towards the middle of this list. And that last pair would have been the top Jordan 4 RM if it wasn't for this collaboration pair here. Again with Nigel Sylvester, I think it's so much more wearable, but interestingly what I like about the shoe is I think it actually stands alone on itself as a nice shoe as opposed to being a nod to a Jordan 4. Okay, I promise we finally get to the Jordan 4s, and here is our first Jordan 4. The problem for me is I'm seeing a desaturated or sun-bleached version of the University Blue Jordan 4. Now I really do love that pair, and it's one of my favourite UNC colorway shoes in my collection, so to see something that I feel is like a lesser version of that, I can't rank highly. Moving on to this next pair, we've got a Jordan 4 in oxidized green. Now I did think this pair was quite interesting and a bit of a retro. I actually bought this pair myself as a bit of a keepsake, So when I was traveling in different countries, this is the pair that I bought to remind myself of Italy. Now I do like this pair, but there were some stronger Jordan 4s. Earlier I mentioned Jordan Brand released 2 new takes on the Jordan 4 this year. Obviously we've heard that there's been a lot of Jordan 4 RMs, but they also released this unusual one, the Jordan 4 Net. Now I really like this pair because I think it's quite a statement, and I think it'd be quite cool to see this in some pretty funky colorways. But I can see it being a bit of a quirk, so I can understand why some people wouldn't like this, and for me that's why I put it in this place on the list. This next pair is a woman's pair and feels very similar to the metallic pack that we got a few years back. I think it's a good pair, definitely very wearable. Now I do know how those lace crowns are going to be. They're probably going to get scratched up and the paint's going to chip off, so for that reason I've got it here, but it's still a very clean pair for the first few wears. If you've watched some of my other 2024 reviews, you'll know I put a lot of emphasis on a pair being wearable or making a statement. Now this pair is definitely wearable, but my problem for me is it's a take on a pair that was a statement. We had the Thunders, we had the red Thunders, so to have the white Thunders follow up feels a little bit boring. And if I'm going for a black and white sneaker, there are so many stronger pairs of Jordan 4s, don't think this pair is memorable enough to go chase. Now some people will be absolutely surprised to see an Arm & Year collaboration pair this low on the list, but I'm a sneakerhead who calls it as I see it, and just because it's a collaboration or a hypebeast pair doesn't mean it has to be the top of all lists. And for me, this pair was not as strong as the first Air Jordan 4 Arm & Year. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot that's really nice about this pair. Obviously, it's an Arm & Year model, so there's going to be great materials on this. There's some good contrast. I think it shows off the silhouette relatively well, but I don't get excited about this pair, and I can see this pair getting pretty badly stained, scratched up and scuffed. This next pair is a woman's pair, and it pains me that they didn't go higher than a men's 12.5. As a size 15, I was really hoping they were going to release a 16.5 in this model. It's a yellow take on the fire red, and hopefully one day they decide to make this a pair for either bigger sizes or men's and women's. It's a great pair, and if you can fit it, I think it's worth getting. Now we're getting to the real top of the list, the Air Jordan 4 Cement. Now this one was an interesting one because some people had some real hate towards this shoe, and that's because they don't understand the vibe check. Some people saw this as a bit of a rehash of the Cause 4s. I think this is an attainable way to get a nice grey sneaker. Obviously it doesn't have the same materials as the Jordan 4 Cause, but I do think this has got a great narrative. Now we're into the top 3, and sneakerheads have been calling for this pair for a very long time. It's the Jordan 4 Military Blues. Now I absolutely love this pair, and I spoke before about buying a different pair for the countries I travelled to in 2024. This was my Greece pair, and it made me really happy to see this come back because like many sneakerheads, it had been way too long since this had last retroed. However, it was very interesting for me when it did release because there were so many people that were so critical of it. Jordan Brand has done what we've asked them to do time and time again, and that's to keep it true to the original pair. But some people got so accustomed to the blue on the last retro that they thought they got the blue wrong on this one. This was such a hyped pair, but the resale market didn't show it. In fact, I even remember going to some stores probably a good week or two after the release, and it was very easy to get your hands on this pair. Maybe not the big sizes, but it was definitely sitting in some. And that, I think, is the start of the Jordan 4 decline, officially. We've seen it drop off this year. I think 2025 it's going to drop even further. Moving into my second favourite pair of the Jordan 4 models this year, it is the Jordan 4 Fair. Now this is another pair that had retroed, people had been begging to come back, didn't think it would, and then it finally did, and demand was not as loud as we were expecting. Similar to the Air Jordan 4 Military Blues, this was a pair that we expected to sell out and you could still get a couple days after release. Now I think this pair is incredibly wearable, it has a lot of interest going on to it. Now I've done a review about that if you want to see it right here, and it would have been my top pair if it wasn't for this pair. Now this might have been my biggest L of the year. I have wanted this pair for such a long time. I looked at the alternate motorsport, I thought black blue accents was such a wearable classic, and I thought why can't we have that treatment to breads? I love the breads, don't get me wrong, but I think the suede material just isn't durable, and when you wear them they get beat up. So I'd wanted a Jordan 4 bread with a leather look for such a long time, and then they release it and I missed every single raffle I entered. It's a great pair, it's wearable, I think it captures everything good about a Jordan 4 from an OG colorway, Jordan lore, wearability, looks clean, has a bit of hype behind it. It's a great pair, and I'm very certain that this is the top Jordan 4 of 2024. And that's that is all 22 Jordan 4s ranked for 2024. I think I've made the right choices, but do let me know if you disagree with me in the comment section below. I would love to read your take, and if you've got the time, give me your whole take from 1 through 24. Or if If you want to skip the RMs, I don't blame you. I'm still working through different models. There should be some coming soon, but if I haven't done the one that you want, pop it in the comment section below and hopefully I'll be able to get onto it. Until then, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.